This is like a new form of McCarthyism, where any lesbian or feminist who doesn't subscribe to gender identity ideology is losing the ability to have a public platform, and in some cases losing their ability to earn a living.
The programme for this year's Edinburgh Festival and Fringe Festival was only announced recently, but there's already a stooshy over a cancellation. An in-conversation event with the SNP MP Joanna Cherry, someone who's been very outspoken in the trans rights debate, has been canned. The Times reports that staff at the venue, including management and box office personnel, said they would not be comfortable working at the show. Joanna Cherry is live with us. Morning.
Good morning, Luke.
How did you find out?
Well, there was a bit of conversation, and then I received an email on Thursday saying that the event had been cancelled. Now, just to make it clear, this isn't an event which I arranged. I was invited by the Stand Comedy Club to take part in a series of in-conversation events that they hold during the festival. They've had Nicola Sturgeon in the past. They've also got Anas Sarwar this year. And just to make it clear to your listeners who might not know me very well, I'm a senior lawyer, a KC. I've been a human rights lawyer for many years. I am a lesbian. I have been an out lesbian and a lesbian activist since the 1980s. I was very involved in the campaign against Section 28 in the late 80s. And I've never said anything against trans rights. I support equal rights for trans people. And in fact, trans people in the United Kingdom have equal rights under the protected characteristic of gender reassignment in the Equality Act. What I don't support is the idea that any man should be able to self-identify as a woman without any safeguards in place. And we've seen what that can lead to in Scotland with the Isla Bryson case, where the Scottish Prison Service had adopted a de facto policy of self-identification, and a man convicted of 2 rapes was going to be put in a women's prison until the public outcry stopped that from happening. So I'm opposed to self-ID, but of course we have freedom of speech in this country, and it's also unlawful to discriminate against anyone on the grounds of their sexuality, or on the grounds of their belief, or indeed on the grounds of their refusal to accept somebody else's belief. And I don't accept gender identity ideology, the idea that gender is more important than sex. I think biological sex is an immutable fact, and I think it's my right as a lesbian to be same-sex orientated. And I think it's women have a right to dignity, privacy and safety, which is threatened by self-identification.
And yet, how do you feel then? Because we all want this debate around gender and gender identity to be calmer and less angry. How do you feel if you set out your position and you say this is reasonable enough, that there is another speaker, a comedian, Bethany Black, who was meant to appear at that same venue during the festival, who is trans, who cancelled her show because she said that she didn't want to be in the same venue that you were.
Well, she wasn't going to be in the same venue as me. I mean, I don't know this person. I've never had any contact.
Can I just finish my
with
point?
her.
Sorry, but just on what she was saying was that she was saying that you were looking to exclude people like me from public life, is what she said.
Rubbish.
But even
I mean, it's absolutely rubbish.
Even on the substance of it, even on the substance on it, if you disagree, how do you feel that what you are saying is making somebody feel like that?
Well, what she said has no foundation in fact, and this woman was not appearing at the same venue as me. She was appearing at the Stand Comedy Club in Glasgow at a completely different time of the year. She says, I want to exclude trans people from public life. It's absolute nonsense. I've never said anything like that. What I've said is I don't want to allow any man to be able to self-identify as a woman without any safeguards, because I think that is damaging to women's rights, potentially damaging to women's rights to dignity, safety and privacy. So, I mean, if Bethany Black wanted to speak with me, I'd be very happy to speak to her and clarify my views. But I think she's completely misrepresenting my views, and she won't find anywhere any basis for supporting them. And this is what happens to women like me. We are constantly misrepresented, and it leads to us being discriminated against. Now, I'm someone in public life, fairly powerful and privileged women. If this can happen to me, just think how much more likely it is to happen to women who have less power. Now, I chaired an event at Parliament last week, a cross-party event, where at the British Parliament, where 3 women spoke about how they've lost their jobs as a result of us holding the same opinions as me. A dancer, Rosie Kay, who ran a very successful dance company, lost her position. A whistleblower at the Arts Council of England lost her position, and a senior lecturer and researcher at the City University in London lost her position. And we know about Dr. Kathleen Stock, Professor Kathleen Stock, who lost her position at the University of Sussex. This is like a new form of McCarthyism, where any lesbian or feminist who doesn't subscribe to gender identity ideology is losing the ability to have a public platform, and in some cases losing their ability to earn a living.
And as you say, you're in a relatively privileged position compared to many. So with that in mind, then, in terms of this issue you have with what this venue has done in Edinburgh, what are you going to do about it? I mean, are you going to take them to court?
Well, I'm considering all my options at present. The law is very clear.
What does that include?
Well, my options would include legal action. The law is very clear on this. There's been a recent case in Scotland that's made it crystal clear that you cannot discriminate against people on the grounds of their belief or their non-belief in gender identity ideology. And I think we're all very clear that people shouldn't be discriminated against on the grounds of their sexuality. And the protected characteristic for lesbians like me is sexual orientation. It's not gender orientation. It's sexual orientation.
But not to get bogged down in the law. But not to get bogged down in the law, though. Is it not the case that you're not allowed to discriminate against people because of their religious beliefs?
Sorry, Luke, I can't hear when you're talking over me. What I'd like to do is for the stand to reconsider their position.
Yeah.
Now, the Edinburgh Festival, the whole point of the Edinburgh Festival Fringe is that it's supposed to be a platform for anyone and everyone to come and perform. Now, when I was invited to do this event, I agreed. And I didn't expect just to be talking about my sexuality or my views on women's rights. I expected to talk about my role as chair of the Joint Committee on Human Rights at Westminster. I expected to talk about my role in stopping the unlawful prorogation of Parliament, my role in the independence referendum, my role in current SNP politics, which, let's face it, is quite interesting, quite newsworthy. So, I'm not a one-trick pony. But as a result of some staff at this venue not agreeing with my beliefs, I am being prevented from speaking about any of these things.
Can I ask you about that legal point that you mentioned?
That's really shocking.
I've got to interrupt with questions occasionally. You mentioned you're a KC, so you'll have better insight on this than many. You said that you might be able to take them to court because of discrimination against your beliefs. This is a belief on this issue about gender identity. It isn't the legal protection about religious beliefs.
No, it's about all beliefs.
Okay.
I'm sure your listeners will have heard about the Forstater case, which has established that my sort of beliefs are worthy of respect and are a protected characteristic. I can absolutely assure you that I would have a good case here. Whether or not I choose to follow that option is something that I'm thinking about. Clearly, I would like the stand to reconsider. I hope that other politicians will speak out in support of me, and I hope that the Edinburgh Fringe will perhaps intervene and do something about this. Already, Mark Lazarevich, the former Labour MP for Edinburgh North and Leith, has called upon all MPs and MSPs across Edinburgh to speak out in my support. You see, because this is very insidious. If we establish a precedent whereby staff at a venue can stop somebody from speaking because they disagree with their views, then really, where does it end? And this particular area of our public debate in Scotland and the United Kingdom has become very, very unpleasant and very intolerant. And part of the reason for that is because politicians and public figures have failed to stand up against a very small group of bullies who want to prevent women like me from articulating our views. I don't expect them to agree with me. I'm very happy to have a debate, very happy to respect the other person's point of view, but it's the complete shutting down of debate in this area of our public life.
And
That's
I'm
so
sorry,
alarming.
and I'm sorry to do exactly that. We're out of
That's
time.
all right.
I'm sorry. I get the irony
Cheers.
that you're talking about being silenced, and I'm having to silence you for time reasons. But we appreciate you coming on to talk through that with us. That's Joanna Cherry, the SNP MP. The Times has been told that the stand, the venue, said to Fair Play, who are the event's promoters, that the show was not being cancelled because of Cherry's views. Instead, it was said to have expressed concerns that it could not provide a safe and properly staffed venue. This is despite having more than 3 months to prepare. So we'll see how that plays out.